Big turnout this morning, which is great. We're just looking down the list here. There's a bunch of people who've got a whole bunch of questions as well. There's a couple who've got similar types of questions, so I might even just jump into those first. And they relate to like people like Jess and Rachel. Is Rachel? Yeah, Rachel's there. And even Paul. People that, well, based down here in Australia, it really doesn't matter. Ben as well, actually. But it's all about trade shows, how to maximize trade shows, how to best present, how to maximize opportunities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of people down here in Australia, but it's kind of trade season show. Well, it's sort of coming up in Australia and New Zealand, how best to maximize the opportunity, how to present yourself in appointments, what sort of stuff to show, do's and don'ts, and that sort of stuff. So Jess, how you going, by the way? Preferencing's open. Do you want to meet with agents that provide private groups? What are your recommendations for selecting the best people to meet with? Also, in the past, I've attempted to fill in every single appointment. With a trade show like any show where you get small appointments, you know, like it might be a 10-minute, 8-minute, 12-minute appointment. I see those as the ultimate learning experience for everything you do that's sales related, okay? Because every time you have an outreach phone call or you are exchanging email or anything like that, you need to tackle it, especially when you're talking about the corporate market or agents or anyone. It could be hotel concierges or other types of distributors. You have the mindset that someone on the other end is saying, okay, you've got a few minutes of my attention. I'm very busy. Why should I bother to take a chance with you? How are you different? Why should I use you? Because ultimately, in the world of travel, people might say, like a distributor, like a travel agent or a hotel concierge or anyone like that, they might say, yes, we're always looking for new ideas, new experiences, new product, okay? But you need to assume that that's not always the case, because taking on a new type of tour, a new type of experience, there's a crap load of work involved, okay? And you take a show like the Australian Tourism Exchange or any type of trade show, you meet a product manager. You have to tell them about your products. They need to be really confident, like, yes, it's a good fit. And that's only where it starts. They've then got to go home. They've got to remember you and sift through the hundreds of other products and experiences that they learn about. Then they've got to go to the next step, which is to get your information loaded into their system, okay? And that takes time, it takes effort. And to do that, they've got to be confident that you're going to be around next month, next year, and the year after that, that they're going to go to that actual level of effort. Then they need to train their reservations team, who are actually on the front line selling your experiences. And that takes time and effort, because they've got to understand more intimately what you're doing. They can relay that to their product, their reservations team, who can then sell it. All right. And that takes another level of time and effort. So ultimately, you need to approach it like this, in a really short period of time, what you do, why you're so great, and why you're different, and why they should take a chance on you, or why they should go to the effort, because they might have a supplier they're using that's, yeah, just okay. Why should they go to the effort of actually changing that arrangement, taking on a new supplier? So that's always the challenge. So a couple of other things that I would say, and then feel free to jump in if anyone's got any questions. With your presentation, I learned a lot. I did like 10 trade shows on my thing. Okay. So I used to do probably 4 or 5 shows a year. I used to do my own sales marketing visits. Like I would create my own personal road shows, and I'd go to the States and I'd see like 10 agents. I'd do the same in the UK and in Asia as well. So I learned a lot over the journey. And one of the things that I did really badly in the early days was I had this, like, you know, route presentation with the same images, and this is what we do, this is why we're so great, we do this and this, and this is what we do in this tour, and they're the details, and that's all the shiny wow things about that, and then we do that, and then we do that. Okay, great, next presentation. And I had someone on the other end of the side of the table saying, ooh, wow, that sounds amazing, lovely, cool, thanks, I'll keep that in mind. Okay, so I learned that is not often not very effective, okay? And it's really freaking exhausting and boring for you. So the things that you really need to nail, especially with trade shows, obviously who you are, what you do, like one sentence, okay? Why you have the bandwidth to deliver consistently at scale year in, year out. They want to know you've been around for a long time. Paul, you run trips in Melbourne as well. You've got a fleet of 5 luxury Mercedes vans. Or so, that's right? Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and Jess and Paul, I reckon there's a lot of collaboration you two could do, because you do things. You're both Melbourne operators. There's a little bit of crossover, but you do a lot differently. So I think that, like, moving forward, there's a lot that you two can do to help each other. So that is awesome. That is like a wow. Lean in. Tell me more, because an operator that's sending, you know, thousands and thousands of packs into Australia, they want to know they got an operator that's been around for a long time, that has weathered a storm over the last couple of years comfortably, that has a large fleet of vehicles. And Jess, you know, don't worry about this stuff, but I'm just using it as an example. You have bandwidth, you have the scope to deliver. So that's a really great selling point, because they're going to say, well, that's great, Paul. You know, I'm sure you run a great tour with your one van and one tour guide, Paul. But what happens when I've got 7 groups? You know, how much quality is the 7th group going to get from you? Okay. So if you can nail that, then, and Ben, don't start freaking out. You're going, oh shit, I've only got 1 vehicle and there's just me. How am I going to do that? That's okay. You cherry pick the highlights and the solar points. So that's the first thing. You've been around a while. You're really, really great. You've got a high level, and this is where you can excel, Ben. Your level of experience and what you bring, you are world class. You're like the pinnacle of wine guys. So, okay, no one does it better than you. No one's got the best connections, all that kind of stuff. They love that stuff. Consistency, ability to deliver at scale. Those things are really, really great. So that's what they want to know. And if you haven't been around for 10 years, you don't tell them you've been around for 1 year. Okay. So you need to focus on the highlights. All right. So then the next thing is why you're so great. Okay. And leading straight into how you're different, you know, because they're always, a lot of them are going to have preferred suppliers. They're going to have people they use. And you're like, you don't want to trash people, and it goes, there's an outreach email script for agent outreach in the inside the tour business resources, which asks you to nail down your 3 points of difference. We're different in the sense that, okay? So you'll be aware that there's other guys who do X, Y, and Z, and they're really great at doing that and that and that. But over here, we're a little bit different. I'm not trashing them. You know, obviously I don't need to say that. You're not trashing them or talking negatively about them. They do that over there really well. But we're different over here. And here's why. 3 compelling reasons, okay? So that's really the crux of that side of things, about how you're presenting yourself. Some great imagery. But then, and you might even want to lead with this, first of all, it's questions, okay? So what sort of volume do you do? Tell me, and also, Jess, you would know about their type of customer base, whether they are, you know, like 4-star, 5-star, whether they do only privates, whether they do family groups, whether they're like outdoor adventure, you know, all this stuff. So you can align yourself pretty well with them. But so tell me a little bit about your ideal customer. So what's your most represented type of customer? Okay. So what are they doing in Australia at the moment, or in New Zealand? What do you find is a real challenge? Like what's the stuff that you find really hard? Like, are you getting the type of up-leveled experiences that you're after? You're struggling, you know, where are your pain points? What's frustrating you at the moment? That's the stuff you need to, you know, needle away. What are some of the things you're doing? What can't you find? You know, so, and you might, and sometimes you need to scratch the surface a little bit more, because they won't really they're like, oh, I hadn't thought about it. You know, I don't really know. Well, maybe what could really work for you? What would elevate your business? What could, you know, the sort of things that you might be looking for to separate, because it's a pretty congested marketplace as an agent selling Australia, or as an overseas agent selling America. It's fairly congested. What are the kind of things that you think would elevate you and set you apart from your competitors? Okay. And get them to think a little bit. It'll be a different, and it makes it more enjoyable for you. Every script for every appointment's a little bit different. Okay. And what you want to try and do is craft a solution that's geared to them. Okay. They might talk about, so, and that takes a little thinking on your feet. It doesn't come naturally all the time, but it'll make the process a lot more enjoyable. And it doesn't mean you need to like have this presentation you're going to pull out of, you know, based on exactly what their pain points and stuff, but you've got to try and craft what you do to be a great fit for them and to solve any problems they've got, or to fill any needs they have that aren't being met at the moment. Okay. All right. So they're kind of like the really the really key points. If you can nail down those three, how are we different, compelling, how are we different points, if you can bed them down, because then it's organic. You know, you're like, yeah, really good question. Those guys that you mentioned over there, they're really great at, you know, showcasing blah, 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 and offering a whatever it is. But over here, we're a little different, and here's why. Okay. But on that Zoom, I got like virtual environment, asking a lot of questions first is because I don't necessarily, put it this way, when I enroll you guys in my program, probably 5% of you have actually seen what it involves. Okay. You don't know what week one's all about and all of the content. I don't tell you about the lessons. I don't tell you about all the stuff in between. That's not important. You want a result and an outcome. Okay. So I can tell you how I can change your life. I can tell you how I can solve your problems. And that's what I do. Okay. And you're like, yes, that's my problem. If you can help me solve it, I'm in. You haven't seen the inside of my members area. You haven't seen the inside of your tour descriptions, those things, because the stuff is not important. It's the result. So if you can craft your solution to solve their problems or meet an unfulfilled need, and people love to be listened to. People love to be made to think. Okay. All right. So I can't give you the actual script for a super successful presentation, but if you can listen, ask questions that really stick the needle in. Okay. And they might not have like, you know, oh, I've got this really unmet need, or this, God, this is massive problem. I can't find, or, you know, we don't have you might not have those, but you've got to stick the needle and ask them some probing questions about, you know, what their clients are really looking for, what they can't find, what they've struggled to be able to deliver, all those things, then those points of difference. And then you craft your solution, because all that stuff about Paul and your bandwidth and your vehicles and your great experiences, that will sound so much more compelling if you can understand what their clients are looking for. All right. As an example, where my customers are looking for a unique sort of the thing that they can't get on the cookie cutter approach to is they want to roll their sleeves and meet locals, get involved. You're like, in your solution, you hammer away at those points. We get off the beaten track. We've got some really carefully selected iconic characters along the way who let us into their world. They open their doors. Ben with the wine experiences, and they're like, wow, that's exactly what we're looking for. Okay. So, and you can sell yourself so much better when you ask a lot of questions beforehand. All right. And Jess, the other one, don't be afraid when you take all these appointments, because yes, you never know, ask a few questions. You're like, you know what? I think we can both agree that this is not a good fit. Pull the pin. Don't sit there for 10 minutes wasting each other's time.